Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going over the recent primary win by Republican Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, and can he actually win the Virginia governor's race in November? Now, I'm going to break this video down to two parts. First part is going to be can he actually win, and the second part is going to be how. So, first things first, I will say it's going to be very, very difficult, but technically, yes, Glenn Youngkin can win and become the next governor of Virginia. Now, I'm hesitant to say that for a few reasons. Number one, Virginia has been voting more and more Democratic in the last 10 years or so, and it has not gone statewide for a Republican, I believe, since Bob McDonnell back in 2009. So it's been a while. And that's very, very concerning for the Republicans in Virginia who want to have a Republican governor, for instance. They're definitely facing an uphill battle. The other concern is the leading candidate for the Democrats right now is former Governor Terry McAuliffe. And he left office because Virginia, you can only serve 4 years. You can run again for re-election, but you have to do it after the next 4 years. You can't do 2 consecutive terms. But he left office pretty popular. The Democratic primary polling clearly shows he's popular. And they haven't done any polls yet, but I imagine in a 1v1 matchup, former governor, pretty popular, it's probably not going to be going too well. But now that I've been Debbie Downer a little bit, what are the good things going for Glenn Youngkin? Well, aside from him winning the state GOP convention, Glenn Youngkin is a political outsider. He is a businessman. He says he promises to bring his business experience and expertise to making Virginia better and providing more jobs and opportunities for the state of Virginia. So why is that important? Sounds like typical promise by someone running for governor or for senator. Sounds like we hear this all the time. Virginia, I think, has proven if a Republican's going to win, just running on saying, yes, I'm 100% pro-Trump is not going to work. There are several states where that actually might work. Ohio, for instance, I think is one swing state where if you run on, like, say, I'm the pro-Trump candidate, you're more likely than not, they'll probably help you win. Virginia is not one of those states. Virginia is a state where if you're running as the President Trump candidate, you're probably going to lose, and it's probably not going to be too pretty. We've seen this in 2017, and we saw this in 2021 and 2016, or in 2020, excuse me. So we know that running as a pro-Trump Republican in Virginia is very, very tough. But Glenn Youngkin, running as a political outsider who wants to bring his experience to make the state better, he has the right messaging. Glenn Youngkin knows that for Republicans to be competitive in Virginia, they have to keep the race local. If it becomes a national race of, say, Biden versus Trump in Virginia, the Democrats going to win every day of the week. So if Glenn Youngkin knows if it's him versus Terry McAuliffe for who can make Virginia better, I think Terry McAuliffe is still favored, but it's a much closer fight. And speaking of this, I want to go back to a few former races from Virginia's past. So 2017, the governor's race between Ralph Northam, Democrat, and Ed Gillespie, the Republican. And we'll be getting to the 2014 Senate race as well, because I think it's very important. But this was coming after Terry McAuliffe served his 4 years as governor. And this is also coming after 2014, where Ed Gillespie narrowly lost to Democratic Senator Mark Warner in a Senate race that was much closer than many people expected. And the second Ed Gillespie lost in 2014, everyone kind of said the same thing was, oh, he's going to run for governor in 3 years. Look how well he did. So that is exactly what happened. Ed Gillespie ran the governor for Republicans in Virginia, and Ralph Northam ran for the Democratic side. Both of these primaries are very interesting, actually. The Democratic primary was supposed to be the closer of the two. As you can see, the polls are going back and forth. But Ralph Northam ended up winning the primary by about 11 points, which was a big surprise. Another surprise was the Republican primary. Everyone thought Ed Gillespie was the clear favorite. And a lot of the polls suggested it. All polls except one had Gillespie winning, and by more than 10 points. And in the primary, Ed Gillespie only wins by about 5,000 votes. Which, if you know one thing about me that I like to use, is I like to use the primary data to determine if there's any trends you can point out. 366,000 Republicans turned out. 543,000 for Democrats turned out. Now, in a state like Virginia that at the time, or was considered to be a swing state, if there's more than 200,000 votes for the Democrats turning out than Republicans, it shows the Democrats are more enthused to go out and vote. We can't say that for 2021 because the Republican GOP did a state convention, so we don't have any actual real vote data from actual people. But we know this race was supposed to be really close. So now we go on to the general. This election was getting huge national coverage. As you can see, for Ed Gillespie, President Trump, Mike Pence, George Bush was getting involved, Nikki Haley was there, Senators Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz, former Governor George Allen. There was a lot of big national news coming in for Virginia. And then also for the Democratic side, Ralph Northam got Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. This is a big national race. And the polls show a pretty close, hard-fought race. The three major political report firms of Cook, Rothenberg, and Sabato all had it as lean D. But very, very close, though. Until about a week before the election, where all the polls did have Northam over Gillespie, they're all relatively pretty close, with only a few breaking 50%. So this was a very, very close race, and some polls even had Ed Gillespie winning at some point, especially earlier on. But what ended up happening? On Election Day, Ralph Northam ended up overperforming the polls by 6%, and Ed Gillespie ended up underperforming by about 0.26%. So for Ed Gillespie, the polls are pretty much spot on. But for Ralph Northam, he way overperformed. So what happened? Well, I'm going to go back up. Well, after they have the charts here, but I'm going to go back up to the map, and I want to show you. Why did Ralph Northam win by 9 points in a swing state that was supposed to be competitive? Well, it all happened up here. These are the Northern Virginia suburbs. These suburbs have been the key to Republicans winning and losing in the past in the state of Virginia. How the state of Virginia used to go, say with George Bush, was Republicans would win the rural areas, Republicans and Democrats would split, or Republicans would do better in Virginia Beach, and then Republicans were able to win the northern suburbs and win the state. This started changing around 2006, 2007, and then ever since then, there's been a big population boom in the northern Virginia suburbs. This is where D.C. is up here, so there's a lot of government workers living there now, and they obviously vote Democrat, as bigger government is typically favored by Democrats, so they know, well, if they vote Republican, they might lose their job. So they pretty much vote with their job, which is Democrat in this case. And this has been a trend we've been seeing for a while. So the Virginia northern suburbs came in bigger numbers than expected, and then Ralph Northam ended up beating Ed Gillespie by about 9 points. But the real question is, why did they turn out so much? Because they nationalized the race. It was so big. I remember on the news, they were talking about it for 2 weeks. It's like if you live in New England or you live in the West Coast, who cares about a Virginia governorship? Well, because it's a microcosm of what 2018, the midterms, might hold. That's why it's important. That's why Republicans want to go on the offensive this time, because they know it's important to define the Biden presidency early on, as the Democrats did with the Trump presidency in 2017. Next, quickly, I just want to go to the 2013 Virginia governor map, because this is the last time Terry McAuliffe was on the ballot. Terry McAuliffe won 47.75 to Ken Cuccinelli's 45.23. Now, there's a third-party candidate that took about 6% of the vote, so I don't think that'll happen this time. But the reason I want to show this is because Terry McAuliffe, everyone thought he was going to win, and the polls reflected this. This is what I'm getting at. The polls show, look at that, Terry McAuliffe was leading in every single poll for a long, long time. No one thought Cuccinelli was going to win. And then he only loses on Election Day by 2%. Why is this significant? A 13-point overperformance. Why is this significant? Well, because maybe people might think Terry McAuliffe, former governor, he's going to win in a landslide. Maybe people don't show up to vote. And then maybe we see Glenn Youngkin make it a closer race than we expect. It's possible. I'm not going to say it's happening, but it's possible. Last one I want to cover, 2014. Again, going back to Ed Gillespie, Mark Warner, Ed Gillespie. This, if a Republican's going to win Virginia, or come very, very close, this is how he's going to do it. Win the rural areas, drive up the vote. One good thing I could say about President Trump is the rural areas are more likely to turn out like even more for Republicans. Win down on Virginia Beach. Republicans have to win Virginia Beach because winning the rural areas and Virginia Beach just puts you in play. That's all that does. It just puts you in play. And then if the Republicans want to win, they have to win most likely Loudoun County and then either win Prince William County right here, or they have to make the margin of victory for the Democrats very, very low. Now, this is the 2014 formula for winning. The simple fact is, well, it's 2021. Things have changed. Population growth has changed. Yes, that's true. But what's also true, there's no current path for Republicans to win Virginia, which is why the 2014 model is the Republicans' best bet. Winning the rural areas in Virginia Beach should still be the model. And then trying to win the northern suburbs or limit turnout as much as possible in terms of voting win. Basically, if the Democrats win the northern suburbs, make sure they win it by 1%, not 10. That's the best Republicans can do. Republicans need to prove in the northern suburbs and drive out votes in the rural areas and win Virginia Beach. That's how they do it. And whether or not they'll be able to do it, as I mentioned, national race depends on this guy, Joe Biden. Current approval polls have him at 54%, disapprove at 41.8%, so basically 42%. Now, I've long been a skeptic of a lot of the national polls, but it's hard to argue Joe Biden, in terms of who's actually doing the polls, is off to a pretty decent start as president. And maybe this oil situation, this gas situation, might end up tanking his approval a little bit. That has not been seen yet. But as of May, Joe Biden's in pretty good shape. And if 54% is Joe Biden's approval rating come November, I would expect Terry McAuliffe to win in Virginia pretty big. Maybe 9 or 10 points again. But if Joe Biden's approval rating dips below 50%, even 49, 48, it's possible we could see Glenn Youngkin actually pull an upset and maybe win the state of Virginia. It's unlikely, but it is possible. In the world of politics, Donald Trump got elected president, so you never know what's going to happen. But that is my quick, well, not really quick, but kind of long breakdown of Glenn Youngkin winning the Republican primary in the state of Virginia, and can Republicans actually win this state come 2021. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon so you always get notified when I post a video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.